Talking. What's up, Soul Warriors? Welcome to the Recovery Soul Food Vodcast meets Rita Farrugia. So this is going to be an amazing show tonight. I'm really honored to have this amazing human being here. She shares a lot of my same interests. You know, I talk to you guys so much about the importance of the subconscious mind when in our recovery process, and just taking from every available resource to try to retrain the brain. Look, there's so many, there's so much controversy out there about is addiction a disease? Is it not a disease? Well, look, it's a disease of the brain, okay? And the way that we can, glow up and conquer that disease is by retraining that brain. And all that happens in the mind. And the subconscious mind is that deep-seated mind that's really operating the majority of our programs during the day. That's why change is so hard. It's why early recovery just almost seems undoable for so many of us, and yet it truly is. So I am super grateful to get to have Rita here to share this amazing information with all of you. So you know what time it is, y'all. Let's go ahead. Let's get this show shared out. Do a watch party in your groups. However you do, we're live on Facebook at Lona Curry at Facebook.com, Recovery Soul Food at Facebook.com, and the Recovery Soul Food YouTube channel. If you're not already a subscriber there, please head over there and like, subscribe, and go ahead and turn that bell notification on so you know when we put up new videos. So y'all know what to do. And I'm going to stop running my mouth. And without further ado, let's bring on Rita Farrugia to the Recovery Soul Food Podcast. Let's go. What's up, Soul Warriors? It's me, LC, and I am here with Rita Farrugia. Now, let me tell you about Rita. Rita is certified in NLP, hypnosis, and Reiki healing, and she is the founder and CEO of HappyBeingWell.com. Now, this is a community that is actually centered around learning this very information, learning how to love life, love self, others. And you know what? I'm going to stand with Rita and know that this community is projected to be the #1 health and wellness community in the entire world. And her mission is to awaken 1 billion people globally to love, to life, and purpose, and through the reprogramming of the subconscious mind. So, Rita, welcome to the Recovery Soul Food Podcast. Thank you for being here.
That was like the best intro ever. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast. Yes, I'm all about reprogramming our subconscious mind. As you know, subconscious mind is where it's at. It is where transformation begins. It starts with the subconscious mind. And subconscious mind is, not our conscious mind. It's the stuff that just goes on in the basement that we're not truly aware of until we get triggered. And even then we get triggered, but we still don't even know why what was that event? Was it from what particular childhood event that it triggered? This involves, work, and involves awareness, and it involves a lot of retraining, like retraining our neuro association. So I love that you pointed out that, you know, addiction, it's like a brain disease.
Yep.
Because when you're constantly seeking that substance, even that is, it's like your brain is so wired to do that.
Yep.
And even if you were to consciously try to like change that thought, like, no, I don't want that particular substance, your body is going to release, your brain is going to release chemicals, you know, to the body that it's used to, you know, engaging in that substance, you know, excessive substance activity. And your body is going to literally fight against the brain. It's going to start releasing chemicals into the brain to get the brain like, no, we want those chemicals being released. We're used to those chemicals. Like the body's like saying that to the brain. So you have this like fight happening between the brain and the body, right? So this is where NLP kind of comes in, is you literally kind of go in there and you retrain those, like basically your mind, to associate to a better state that you want to feel and be in, but you got to do it repetitively, just like how, you know, somebody becomes an addict to a certain substance, whether that's alcohol or, you know, heroin or cocaine or whatever, you know, I'll just use cocaine as an example. So like cocaine, like, you know, because it's a repetitive action. Like obviously if you're an addict to a substance, you've obviously done it repetitively.
Absolutely.
And so in order to replace that, to kind of eliminate that habit, you have to also, you know, do using visualization and using all of your senses to recondition your mind, therefore your body, like together. You have to have that alignment. And so which we'll talk about. We can discuss certain techniques, but I think it's important that people understand why these techniques work. It's not some kind of woo-woo, you know,
guru hack,
trick, some kind of trick to sell books or programs or whatever. You know, no, this is like, if people were to really break it down and really understand how the brain works, you know, if a particular action that we do repetitively that's linked to a certain, you know, honestly, like we're all addicted to everything. Like I used to have an addiction to, you know, comfort food. You know, whenever I was feeling a lot of high anxiety and stress, I would eat excessive amounts of comfort food. Everything is an addiction, like, you know, laziness, procrastination, you know, being angry all the time is also an addiction. Because you get anchored into that state. So, you know, it doesn't just apply to people that abuse substances, even though it's a horrible, you know, thing to do. It's horrible. But
I mean, it is. It's like I always equated the act of addiction to living in a war zone. You know, it was a constant survival mentality. But I started finding the more that I worked with the subconscious. So let me back up just a little bit to give context of how I found NLP and where I was in my recovery walk, because I had been addicted for 22 years of my life. And I had gotten to the point where I was in the midst of this 9-month relapse where I said, okay, it's life or death for me. And I had stabbed at sobriety. That's why I'm such an advocate of how recovery and sobriety are much different. You're fighting sobriety on the surface. On recovery, you got to fight to change your life, and that goes deeper, and you got to be willing to go deeper. And I knew at that point that was the difference. So I wanted to go deeper. I had sat down and watched this free webinar by Bob Proctor, and it completely changed my life because he was talking about things that I didn't understand. I didn't understand that I had a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. I didn't understand that so much of where I was running into my problems and giving into my triggers was fighting it on the surface. And then when I couldn't break through, of course, it became a fault. It became an emotional fault. I can't do this. I'm destined to go out this way. I'm just a nobody. So we tell ourselves those things, and we're doing it in repetition. Like you said, we're talking to ourselves in repetition every day, and that stuff is sinking down. I call it marinating the subconscious to the point that it becomes a belief system that means you're not failing when you're stabbing at sobriety, because you don't know what you don't know. So you have to make that commitment to get into recovery and to know. That's why I bring this type of content to this community, because I don't believe there's a human being out there that, number one, doesn't suffer from some type of addiction alive in the world today. And number two, that cannot live their best life from wherever they decide to jump into all of this, that they can absolutely gain recovery, gain healing in recovery, and live a life they love and they're proud of. And because if I can do it, I promise them they can do it too. And this is part of the ways. And I accidentally learned NLP in the beginning because, again, I was desperate. I wanted everything and anything. So I was learning about EFT, started really learning about manifestation and visualization, and how I was using the law of attraction anyway. I just didn't know it. That's why I kept bringing in all the same old evidence of my belief systems. And I don't even remember who I heard, but it's a technique I still use today, eight years later, where that negative thought, I froze it in my mind. I took a black paintbrush and just made this awful circle around it in my mind to where the paint was just running, and then started crossing it out. And at first I thought that I was like, there's no way this is going to work, but it did. And I use it still to this day. When fear comes up and negative thought processes come up, I use that mind trick, that mental technique. And I know that I'm a new person today. Like you were talking about earlier, I was addicted to anger. I took the substance away, and you can best believe that was not all my problem at all. In fact, that was such a small little portion of it that to the rest of it, that almost became easy. So much of it was, and I love that you said anchored. It was anchored in trauma, self-belief, past attempts, what I believed about failure and mistakes. And so, I just love everything that you say. I think that we could probably talk for like hours and hours on end.
I think so too.
and never quit. But
Mhm.
so please keep sharing about this. I just wanted to give that so that people really do understand this is what I've been talking about. Like, y'all, like, this is what I'm talking about. So talk to us some more, Rita, about, just everything. I just want to know so much from you. I want you to share so much. Do you feel like we've covered the subconscious mind enough? I mean, I know it's kind of like, I always use the example of driving. Like, how we drive, and when we're 16, it's like 10 and 2. And, I'm 47. It's like I can drive with my big toe and, do this stuff and all that. Like that's what I equate to the subconscious mind. So go deeper.
That is called unconscious competence. So that is something, if you're wanting to adapt, a new habit or a new lifestyle, like for example, staying sober, you want to adapt, have that unconscious competence, like it is driving a car. Right. So that's the ideal state you want to get to. That's why we need to work with the unconscious mind. First, obviously, we start consciously, like we gain the knowledge, like right now, listening to this podcast, we are consciously learning information that we're speaking about to get the awareness, oh, okay, this is how our unconscious mind or subconscious mind works. And this is how I'm getting triggered. Oh, okay. It's a result from what I picked up in my childhood, or, values or beliefs that I've adopted from the traumas that I've acquired from, either childhood, adolescence.
Yeah, I'm not bad. Yeah, I'm not bad. This is the process. Thank you. Please
Right.
go on. Sorry to interrupt.
So the root of it is, listen, I think that any bad behavior that we are addicted to, it stems from a feeling of wanting security. I think that all of us human beings are, part of our evolution is, designed to survive. So we have this survival brain, and, we need to evolve further. We need to learn how to thrive. We can't just stay in a survival mode. So I bring that up to say this. So when I think the first step into having a successful recovery, listen, there is a million techniques, like one you've mentioned, like doing a visualization technique, to kind of break state, break that pattern, and remind yourself, no, I'm not touching that. I am not ingesting that substance. I want to stay sober. And then you can visualize yourself, your future self, what it means to stay sober. How does that look like to you? We'll go into that further, like as in terms of a couple techniques that people can practice. But I think the root, like those techniques are great. But if you don't go to the root of actually releasing the trauma, you're constantly going to battle. And you can use those techniques, and they're great. I mean, it helps with like we discussed earlier, reprogramming your subconscious mind and creating those new neural associations, because in your neurons that wire together, fire together. We've heard this.
Yeah.
It's a very popular term in the new age, or, personal development community. Also neuroplasticity, right? So neuroplasticity means that we can, with effort and concentration, grow new neurons and dendrites through techniques that we'll be discussing. Or there's, like you mentioned, there's so many techniques out there. So the point is releasing the trauma. I think that is actually the first important step. So how to do that is you need to go back in time, and there's techniques for that too. There's timeline therapy, and the essence of it is really just to recognize that it wasn't about you. Like, whatever trauma you've experienced, obviously, I think a lot of people have, our parents were never perfect. I don't think that, one has to be physically abused to experience some form of trauma. It could literally be, a divorce, or, something that the mother maybe did. Maybe she was just, maybe she suffered from depression, and she never gave you that amount of attention and love and emotional support that you would like to have. And maybe you didn't feel good enough. Maybe you felt like, maybe you were just not interesting enough for her or whatever. But it wasn't but when you do this type of trauma release therapy work, you go back in time, especially with you being an adult, and you really start to realize, by putting yourself in your parents' shoes, that they're just human like us. It was never about you. And what was the lesson that you needed to learn? And that's how you kind of like let it go.
I think you're absolutely right. I love that you're even speaking about that. It's like Pamela's comment, is just what you're talking about. It doesn't even have to be from trauma, just patterns from our parents, even that didn't have good coping skills and were anxious. And that's so true. We pick up so much because we are just subconscious when we're born. So thank you for talking about that trauma aspect, because that means a lot to me. That really had to heal for me, and I knew it, and I love that. So please continue. I just wanted to make reference to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a great point that Pamela brought up. It's, just learning from our parents too. Like, some people maybe saw dad drink a lot. That's how he dealt with his stress and anxiety. So, then you may just do that too to deal with your stress and anxiety. Or, you know, as females, you know, we learn how to be a female from our mother, and maybe our mother, again, using the example of, you know, maybe she was just not exactly very expressive, you know, or, and then therefore you learn to not be so expressive. You know, that's a great point too. So it all starts with awareness. And I think that we all, you know, for the first 7 years of our life, let's face it, is the most vital years of our life. That's where we form our personality. And so we do have to, you know, look at it and, you know, and kind of go back and kind of float back into that, you know, maybe that 3-year-old body or that 5-year-old body. And, you know, what did you feel? What did you hear? What did you see? And I also too be cognizant of, you know, if it was our parents or whoever it was, you know, that they're also just human too. And not that it excuses if, you know, a behavior that was wrong, but, you know, you need to let it go, forgive. You know, I guess you kind of have compassion there and realize, most importantly, it was not about you.
Yes.
And I think that that's the covert message that we get, is that, oh, you know, with the example of the little girl not getting enough attention from her mother because the mother may be suffering from depression and she's just overwhelmed with like the cooking and the cleaning and, you know, and it's, you know, what is a little girl going to think? I mean, she doesn't know any better. She doesn't even know what depression is, or like what it's like to be an adult and have all those responsibilities and perhaps, you know, feeling overwhelmed. Like the little girl, she's just kind of picking up the message that, oh, you know,
personalizing.
I'm not important enough, or, you know, mommy just doesn't want to listen to what I have to say or whatever. Right. So, and then we grow up and we forget about those moments and we just kind of put it under the rug, but we carry that, right, unconsciously. And it manifests in our life. Like perhaps we start manifesting relationships where the partner doesn't really give us a lot of attention, or maybe they're narcissists, right? And so we recreate that trauma to kind of, I guess we're trying to heal unconsciously is what we're doing, but we're unconsciously, we're not aware of that. So we just keep, you know, recreating these traumas again.
Yes.
So, yeah, and I've actually, I've personally, I've dealt with that, where I kept, you know, recreating that and then recently I realized, oh my God, that's where that's from. You know,
it's so freeing. It's freeing to realize that moment. When you have that moment, you're like, holy shit, that's really where that's from. It almost, I've had some times in my life in this process where it's almost been shifted completely in that one moment where I was like, oh, wait, because for me, I like to know the root of something. I like to know where it came from. And a lot of those old limiting belief systems for me had been shattered in that one moment of realizing, oh, that's where it came from. And oh, I didn't know that. And it just made it like the door was so open to start recreating, you know, a different way of seeing things. You know, I think that so much about recovery is about learning where that perspective comes from and learning how to see the world in a different way. Like I shared about the Bob Proctor, his first exercise, it was 11 forgotten laws of the universe, and his first exercise was to make a gratitude list. I always share this. He said, make a list of 10 things. If you can't do 10, do 5. I couldn't only muster up 1. And I often say I had the same amazing wife, had the same son, had a roof over my head. I have my family. All the things I wake up now in pure gratitude about, I had them then, but my perspective, I only saw where I was failing them or failing at it. And I had to, when I broke that perspective and started creating that list on a daily basis and getting really in touch with that feeling of gratitude, even with that one thing, it was like my perspective just started just gradually opening up almost to, it was less conscious. It was a conscious action. And over time, it just became so subconscious that my entire perspective of my world, my family, all changed. And I'm alive today because of that perspective change. I would not have continued to live because I couldn't live miserable like that every day, seeing the world with those blinders on. And so I'm loving what you're sharing right now. I'm just so with it. Thank you.
Well, there's so many terms for it, different, and then different technique. I mean, there's different, people have labeled it differently. In NLP, it's called timeline therapy. And then in the new age community, it's called shadow work, but it's essentially the same concept and essentially the same, technique, really. You're going back in time, reliving it. I think when we're with shadow work, they have, you're doing a lot more play acting, like play rolling. With NLP timeline, it's more with what was the lesson that you needed to learn. And whereas with shadow work in the, in the spiritual community, it's, if you're a baby and you're being neglected, for example, whatever you feel comfortable with, if you feel like you want to be in your baby's body when you're a baby, or if you want to view yourself externally, whatever you're, kind of drawn to, what you need. And then you would have to recreate the memory of, what would you have your parent do instead? If they're not picking you up and you're crying, who was the parent? Was it your father, your mother, and well, you want them to pick you up. Okay. Then you start to like visualize them picking you up. So you're basically just reconstructing the memory. Personally, I really like the lesson. I mean, I do too. Yeah, the lesson I feel is more powerful because sometimes I think you're like manipulating your, it's a lie and it may not.
I'm with you.
I think that people have to be, I don't know, whatever, for me, I have a lot of integrity and so that wouldn't work for me because I think for most people, we all know, even when it's been proven through muscle testing is that when we lie to ourselves or just lie in general, our muscles become weaker. It's that whole raise your arm test and let's see how strong you are. Okay, now lie, say your name is Jim. Okay, you can't lift your arm. So I think that's an important point, when we are doing these personal development techniques, is to, not to be so out there with like lies, things that we don't believe, that are, especially with, I find this is where people have problems with affirmations. Some people it works. Some people it works because perhaps they do believe that, they're becoming that person or they're on their way because they have some evidence of it from the past. Some people don't have any evidence of it. And they really don't believe that, because they have very low self-esteem and a lot of insecurities, and they don't believe that they're going to become this person, but they keep saying it to themselves, and they actually may do the reverse. It make it weaker. So in that situation, you have to look for evidence, where you can believe you are becoming this person, like you're on this way to achieving more success and meeting the right people, and you're taking actions to feel better, whether it's investing in personal development and doing more personal development techniques or going to the gym regularly, eating healthy or whatever it is, you got some evidence like, oh, I'm on my way. I'm actually doing these things, and therefore you'll believe it more. So that's an important point too, that some people don't consider.
Yeah, and I'm really, really glad that you brought that up because I had that issue with affirmations in the beginning. And of course, when that deep subconscious belief of not being good enough still lives down in there, and it's a large monster, when I would try to tell myself those things, I wouldn't want to tell myself those things. So I'd think, oh, I'm not doing it right. I'm not going to get there. So it did in the beginning stages do the opposite. And what I had to start focusing focusing in on was just not telling myself that same lie anymore. Whenever I would feel like I'm not going to make it, I would have to just say to myself, well, the evidence, shows me that that's not necessarily true. And that if this person can do it, that's one of the other reasons why I show up and do these types of things in this community, because I got a lot of, a lot of treasure out of being able to see someone else be able to recover. And I can say, could say, okay, well, if they can do it, then it's obviously available to be done. So I would just kind of stop telling myself that damaging lie, and never really got a whole lot of benefit from going the opposite way of trying to tell myself this big opposite lie. Like, nope, I'm negative in my checking account right now and I'm going to be a millionaire. That's really hard
yeah, it is
at that point. But I think as we do begin to make those changes little by little, I can absolutely stand in my mirror now and say, LC, you are going to be a millionaire, and you're going to do so much good in the world, through that. And that makes me feel good. I can feel that. And I think the point that you made about that is very valuable. And I'm really glad you made it, because we're hearing now, affirmations. And I've said it myself, but I don't always remember where everybody's starting from. And that can sometimes, hurt people. And you would never want to do that in what we do. So yeah, great point, Rita. Just an absolute.
Yeah. And sometimes even with visualization, they definitely work. They're very, very powerful, but you got to check yourself. Like, am I really believing this, or maybe sometimes some people are not the greatest at visualizing it, or maybe they don't really get into it because, again, stuff in the basement, they don't really believe it, or they don't think they're worthy of it, or because they didn't do the trauma release work, or even figure out what kind of trauma. Some people are not even aware that they're harboring.
They don't.
Trauma, because like I said, like a trauma doesn't have to be something so, drastic, like physical harm, it could be little things that we took in as that we're not worthy enough, because, it was like, for example, like I like to look at the whole mother kind of neglecting her little girl example, right? And it's kind of mild, because like, you grow up and maybe the mother snapped out of her depression and she's, maybe a little bit more functioning, and you kind of go into adolescence and you just kind of forget about it. But it's still there. And you kind of go through life with that underlying belief that you've created as a little girl, or a little boy, or what have you. So for me, that was my thing. I was a little girl, and my mom, she had depression, and she felt like, there were moments where she wasn't fully present, right? She would just, I have memories of like going into the kitchen and talking to her about my day in school. And maybe I was in kindergarten, and she'd just be stirring the sauce and just totally be out of it, like in a trance, right? And now as an adult, we realized, she was just overwhelmed or whatever. So and these were things that did show up, and I ended up attracting narcissists into my life like crazy.
I was just going to say that about how strong and powerful that is, and what a great example that would be to use for people, because a lot of times we don't see it, but everybody sees who they're attracted to, and we all have that phase where we're attracted to that same type of person. And I was thinking about, like the same, like the example you're talking about, and we talk about the same thing with masculinity and boys. You may look at someone, the father, between the father and the son, and he's building his masculinity on that father, or the father's absent, and now he's feeling less masculine in his peer group. And there's so many things that we're ingesting in that time of we're building our foundations. And it is absolutely being built in the atmosphere we're in, by the examples that we see. And again, like you're talking about, we have no other abstract way to take things as little humans as, oh, it must be me. We don't have reasoning to think anything otherwise. And then we get out in the world and we keep attracting the same assholes and the same types of people that harm us in those same ways. And we just don't get it. And so, what an amazing, amazing example for you to bring up. I want to tell all our new listeners, we got people coming in all the time, coming on in. I just want to say hey to everybody. Paul, I love you. Andrea Litton, you're the best. I love you too. I love you, Richard. Everybody's here. I mean, people keep coming in, and I hope you guys will watch the replay. Anybody coming in new, and in all honesty, people that have been here the whole time and stayed till the end, watch this over and over, because repetition is great for retraining and learning. And I listen to the same things daily, because that really drives into that subconscious too. What we, repetition really drives it home. And my mom's here. I love you, Mom. Hey. So, there's a lot to what you're sharing right now, Rita. I mean, it's life changing, and it really is life changing for the recovery community. We've got to move away from telling some of the same old war stories over and over. I mean, there's been this paradigm of recovery for so long. That's why I'm so passionate about this, because that old paradigm of recovery was very one way. And if you're not getting it that way, and again, people were taking that, I couldn't do it that way. And so many times I would, again, bring that on myself. Well, see, I can't do it. I knew I couldn't do it. And so now we're broadening, and the recovery community is coming to a place where they're awakening to the fact that there's many ways to recover. And in fact, it's vital for you to take a piece of everything that helps you and create your own. I call it a gumbo because I'm from the South. It's a gumbo, it's got everything in it. Put it in there. It's your recipe. And that's going to be vital for people's lives. Again, you and I have the same goal. We share the same goal in wanting to see people live their best lives, because we do know what it's like to come back from a place where you just weren't sure if you were going to. And, everybody here understands that in some way, shape, or form. So again, I love the information you're sharing. I mean, we're definitely going to have you come back on. There's no way an hour's going to cover all this.
I know, we're almost at
way.
We're close to 40 minutes already. It's crazy.
I know.
And I still have to cover at least one technique people can do at home.
Yes. Give them something. Yeah, really do that. That's really important to me. Is I really want to see that happen for folks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So again, with this technique, it's like Elsie said, repetition is the mother of all skill. I think that's what Tony Robbins says, right? It's his little mantra. It really truly is. I mean, we all know, like, after listening to a lecture or even listening to this podcast or any podcast for that matter, we only absorb, I believe, like 70% of the information. So we're not going to fully get it into our DNA unless we listen to over and over. And honestly, like, okay, even for a quick example, my favorite movie of all time is Rocky. And I kid you not, I have probably watched that movie like at least 1,000 times. But to this day, I still pick up one little thing in the movie that I didn't notice before, because that movie was so brilliant with the dialogue, and the script was just the best script, in my opinion, ever written.
I love it.
Ever. That script was just genius. Like the words, that dialogue that came out, and the metaphors that were used. It just, anyways, but I'd always pick up something, it was done so well from a directing perspective, and the characters and the script and the acting. It was done just beautifully, like this, all the symbolism that was being used throughout the scenery as well, like to kind of amplify the message of the scene. It was just so brilliant. Anyways, I pay attention to that stuff because I'm a big symbol person. I love symbols.
Yes.
Stallone's a genius. Like, he really is a genius in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, he's just a master. He knows about you can definitely, a great director and a great actor and a great they know psychology. Like,
Yes, it's so true. They know how to get us.
Yeah, and that's how you create great movies. I mean, you have to know how this works in order to affect us at the heart level and at the mind level.
That's so true.
So I'm always picking up little things like in the movie. To this day, I mean, I'll watch it probably, maybe tomorrow, and I'll still pick up something new. It's just kind of, emphasizing like it's so important to like, we do learn things over and over once we go over stuff. And I love learning, so you can tell with my enthusiasm.
Me too. I know. Constant. It's constant. Yeah.
I know. So one thing people can do, it's called, I think this is my favorite NLP technique to squash a bad habit and implement a new habit. So it's called a swish pattern. And so, our minds are very powerful. Like, to kind of give context on how powerful these types of visualization techniques are, it's basically just like when we're watching a movie, whatever the characters are going through on screen, we go through too. Like if the character lost, a spouse and we went on that journey with them, we saw how their relationship was and how they bonded. And we can relate to that because we've all been in relationships or in a relationship. And then they lose that spouse and, we start crying too. And it's not even real. It's a movie. It's fake. And so just to kind of give context of how powerful creating your own movie would be, if we compare it to watching a movie on the screen. So instead of watching, the television, which is telling you a vision, tell yourself a vision and have yourself, go into a trance and, change your state yourself into a state that, you're propelled to move forward to change the future, to transform. It's about you. You're the star of the movie.
Yeah.
And so that's a kind of like example like to use to kind of anchor into people like how important this technique is and how it works. So it's called Swish. And so what you want to do, and since it's obviously related to substance abuse and you're going to have two pictures. You're going to have like the biggest picture, brightest picture is going to be a picture of you. It's going to be a picture of you, perhaps it's going to be a negative picture. Perhaps, you are going through the negative symptoms of your substance abuse, whatever that looks like to you. You're in pain, you're on bed, you're missing out on life, you're tired and you're angry and, it's just, and you're not looking good because you're strung out, you don't want anyone to see you. You definitely don't want to be on video or camera. It's not a selfie day for you, right?
Yeah.
So just trying to get that image, like, how are you feeling? What does that look like? And make it really big and bright, okay? And make it up onto your screen. Now, you're going to create another image. It's going to be small and dim and dark, and it's going to be far away from you, okay? And that's the image of your future self, the person you want to become. So you can tap into former memories of, remember, when you were confident, you're sober, you're kicking ass, whether it's in the boardroom or it's on stage, you're a speaker, or if you're a student, maybe perhaps you won a debate or whatever, like whatever achievement that perhaps, you've experienced in your life, you can tap into that memory, or you can create a future self memory of what you would like to become. And so how are you dressed? How are you feeling? Are you feeling confident? Are you feeling happy? Like really tap into that too. So what you're going to do is you're going to have the big, ugly negative image that, you don't really want anymore. Then you're going to have the little image that is dim and dark over here. And then what's going to happen is you're going to, the little image that's far away, the image that you want to be, your future self of transformation, is you're going to do it's called swish, right? So the point is that little image is going to come up to the screen and just explode. It's going to explode and blast out like pretty much the old image of what you no longer want to be. And so you got to do it repetitively. So we said repetition is the mother of all skill. That's how you're going to get it ingrained into your DNA. And so you have to do it repetitively. And so it's just the image that your ideal self is small. It starts off small, but it grows bigger and bigger and bigger. And it kind of just blows out the old image. You know what I mean? The old image just kind of goes away. And that is what you're going to have to do repetitively. What you're doing is you're linking that horrible image with the little image as it goes towards yourself. It becomes big and bright, okay? Because you are going to just explode out the old image. So what's going to happen is when you do this over and over and over again, I mean, you got to do it, oh goodness, at least, ideally, maybe I would say like, 100 times, but that would be exhausting. Start off maybe doing it like maybe 20 times. And then you do the technique over and over again. So what's going to eventually happen is, when you're feeling tempted to take that substance, you're going to like link it to like, no, I don't want that. I want to be that person. I don't want to be this person anymore. I want to be this person. So that's the link. That's the neural linkage that you're creating with this technique. But again, you got to do repetitively. And to be more powerful, you want to do your trauma release work, as well. And then these, all these amazing techniques of these, become much more powerful as well.
That is absolutely the truth. That's one of the ones, in fact, that was one of the early ones that I learned as well, about that. And, kind of sitting in sitting in a movie theater and kind of watching that movie come up, and it sounds far off to people sometimes when they hear that, when they're used to doing recovery just one way. But I'm telling you, that's what happens when you really study what's happening in the brain. And I had to go to school to become a drug and alcohol counselor to be taught what was happening in my brain. I didn't learn that in recovery, in a program. I had to have to learn how to teach something or become professional to learn that. And so I'm telling you guys so much that understand what's going on in your brain and the processes of that, and all of this will begin to make sense. And when you do it, you can feel the state. Like I was doing that while you were talking about it. And I could just feel my state change because I have practiced that over and over and over. But don't think for 1 second that I don't wake up some days and still have to do it again because maybe I'm really tired or exhausted, and it's easier for that default programming of, oh, Elsie, you're not ever going to make it that far. You just give up on that. Make your life so much easier. I mean, just all the shit that, that old story tells us. Mm-hmm. And it's just about recreating that old story. What you were sharing about the movie is, to me, that's the power of purpose. There's just something about when you click with that purpose in your life, and it doesn't have to be this big, great purpose. And you don't just have to have one. Your purpose, early in recovery, my purpose was for my son. I didn't love myself enough to do it for me. That's a cliche. You got to recover for you. Mm-hmm. Well, you don't really care too much about yourself in the beginnings. For me, my son was a teenager. He was a preteen. I didn't want him to pay for my mistakes, and I did not want to send another addicted person out into the world. I didn't want to see him cope with his issues in the same way. So that was my purpose for getting up and carrying on and learning these techniques and learning about my mind and learning these things, because I needed to recreate for him. And eventually I did start to love myself. And now he's up and out of the house, and I'm still doing this for me now, because I've shown myself that I can do anything that I put my mind to. And anyone that's listening to this right now, if you don't believe it now, then just keep coming back to this video, keep coming back to this platform, because I'm going to keep on pushing in you that you can do anything that you put your mind to. You did it every day in active addiction. Every day you woke up with a purpose and a why. And that was to get what it was that you needed. And most of us had no money, no prospects, but our why was so strong that we got out there and we made it happen. So remember that the foundation of those skills still live in you. So you can do anything you put your mind to. So just remember that when you're making those pictures, just remember those times of being just dope sick, just, those moments of pure, just desperation, and just do what Rita's saying is have that darker picture of that person with that tenacity that gets shit done, and you will get shit done. If I can do this.
It starts off as a darker picture, but as it comes up, it gets brighter and bigger to blow out that horrible picture that you want to go away.
Absolutely, because I don't have triggers of using anymore. That's the brilliance to it all, is that I don't have triggers of using, and I've been through some of the most powerful tragedies I've been through in recovery, and it really, 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 has shown me a lot of the work that I'm doing. And sometimes we don't understand the work that we're doing until we're faced with that adversity. You don't know your tools work until you got to use them sometimes. And, that's been the brilliance of all that you're talked about today, is that this is a lifestyle for me, and for both of us. You live this same lifestyle, in your life. It's a lifestyle, and it's a lifestyle that I wake up and enjoy living. And, it's only getting better and better and better. While we're almost to the end of our time here, Rita, talk to people about Happy Being Well, your wellness community, where they can find you, follow you, how they can learn more from you.
Yeah, sure. So, in my journey, I've dealt with, dealing with high stress and anxiety and depression issues in the past, and, a lot of trauma and trauma too. So anyways, what was important to me, obviously learning these techniques and stuff, but what really amplified me really upping my self-worth and wanting to up my game was really starting to take care of myself, like, especially, as women, so meaning like, taking care of my skin, and also too, and making sure everything's organic, and also having when I started incorporating meditation tools into my practice, like burning incense and then starting using crystals, it really kind of amplified my meditation practice, and it got me more excited about it because I love smelling incense, and it's aromatherapy. It helps you get into a calmer state. And actually, burning sage is not, I know everyone says, oh, it's, it eliminates negative energy. Well, it does, but it also increases your intuition as well. So like when you are meditating and you want to get clarity around an answer, it kind of helps with that. So those are products that I do sell on happybeingwell.com, are basically products that help amplify your spiritual practices and daily self-care practices. And I believe that they're very important. And so yeah, sage, crystals, obviously yoga leggings, and, when you get into your meditation sessions, you want to be, wearing leggings and be comfortable. So stuff like that and also too, the site is a lot of great blog articles to talk about different meditation techniques. And if you have problems meditating, ways to easily get into a meditation. Okay. Yeah. And knowledge about crystals and ways to reduce stress and anxiety. So there's a lot of great stuff and there's going to be much more education on happybeingwell.com in terms of more e-guides and ebooks, and eventually more tutorials, video tutorials.
Awesome.
So it's going to be expanding, in the future with a lot more education and inspirational tools to teach you on how to use the incense and what the crystals are. It's not going to be just in reading format, it'll be in video format as well. So it's, and then eventually I may have people on there that you can tap into, like a directory. If you're looking for a yoga instructor or a meditation instructor, you can look into the directory and see if who's around you nearby or what have you that I would vet. So that's important. So yeah, that's happybeingwell.com. So it's for
that's
all.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm smiling so big because I'm really big on the living your passionate dreams. And we've talked about before, you've been a very successful, digital marketer in the past. And man, there comes this, when you find that passionate dream, it's just, I don't know, it just helps you get up in the morning and move through and just that the power of passion is so important to me. It really brings me through days, and I keep doing this, platform and the different things that I do as well, just because that power of passion. I love to meet somebody else where you can see it, on another human being when they're living their passionate life and doing their passion work. And I just think that's really, really huge. I'm grateful to have surrounded myself in these times. You vibe different and you attract a different tribe. And I'm so grateful in my life to have people that are living within their passion and living their dreams. I'm going to make sure that, yes, thank you, Pamela. I'm going to make sure that I put that right down in the comments right now, that happybeingwell.com. It's in the description to everybody, but go and check that out. I mean, I love Rita. This has been just an amazing, amazing, amazing podcast filled with so much outstanding information. I mean, I just couldn't be happier for the way this has gone, and we're going to have to do this again without a doubt.
Yes, we do. Now, one quick thing is you mentioned about, limiting beliefs and disempowering beliefs. One quick technique that I do, and to kind of, snap out of those, fake false beliefs, they're just BS, is to, like, whatever it is, like, oh, I'm not worthy enough, or, I'm not, whatever it is, or I can't do that, or whatever it is, just to alter that voice into like a Mickey Mouse voice, or I'm not worthy enough, just make it sound funny. And then you realize how, you kind of help to snap out of it. And then walk forward and say, that is BS. I am worthy enough. And you got to say it with like,
I used to do
that. Yeah, that's powerful too. Yeah, like I am worthy enough. Yeah, like whatever it is that helps you anchor it in and to move forward as you're saying it too. It just kind of, it makes you realize like that is BS. It's not true. Like it's something that we tell ourselves because maybe somebody is not giving us enough attention or whatever. Like, we live in a competitive society, so we're bound to, be traumatized some way or form, whether it's in the workplace or whatever it is. Plus, we've got a lot of people walking around that are traumatized and they project that onto us. So we're constantly having to do work every day to kind of to make sure that we're like, no, this isn't true. Where did I pick this up from? This is not true. Get this out of my, aware, like my screen, my DNA.
Yes.
We have to reset ourselves really, truly, like almost
every day. Every day. I mean, if you don't set your program, your mind's being programmed. I mean, even if it's, I don't watch the news. I don't listen to the news. I depend upon my mom or my wife to tell me when, bad weather's coming or something. I just had to stop. I just changed everything. I changed the music I listened to. I got tired of struggling for no reason, but because that was what I was used to. And, I can't make a change if I'm going to stay in the same pot that I was simmering in for all those years. Change your pot, guys. Change what you're allowing in. Stand guard at the door of of your perception and you take control. Like start putting things in that you want to know, you want to love, and you want to be. I love that example, Rita. I'm grateful that we're here. Grateful, grateful, grateful that we're here. So everybody, you guys know what to do. Head over to happybeingwell.com. You can follow Rita on Instagram at happybeingwell, right?
Yeah.
Follow Rita on Instagram. Just follow her everywhere you can find her. I have a feeling that Happy Being Well is going to do extremely well very soon. I'm grateful to have had you here. Everybody, still make sure you share the video out, tell a friend, put all of these things into practice, and live your best possible life, because you have the power to do that. And I just want to see all of you do everything that you want to do. All right. Well, Rita, thank you so much. We got to do this again. Everybody else, I love all of you. You're the most amazing audience and soul warriors in the world. I'll see y'all Wednesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Winning Wednesday Live. Until then, y'all have the most amazing weekend ever. Bye, guys.